Hi, I'm Lee, and I've come to share my story. My story, which began in 2016 when I lost my husband, having cared for him for many years, and I was left with our 4 young children. Um, and it was an incredible responsibility trying to support them through their grief and help them to come to terms with such a huge loss in their young lives. Um, and I guess that my needs and how I felt were pretty much neglected or certainly pushed and suppressed. There didn't seem to be any time for me to do any work on myself or for myself. It was just everything was being done for the family. And I experienced pain that I have never experienced before in my life. And I started to get these painful attacks in my face. And I went to the doctors and was just diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia. And there's a nerve that runs through supplying your face in 3 branches and then goes down your neck. And some people, I'd read about some people's experience of one of the branches being inflamed and them feeling immense pain. But I was experiencing all the branches being inflamed at the same time. So my face would swell up, it would be very red. It affected my teeth and my gums. I could hardly open my mouth. I'd wake up in the morning, and if I had an attack that began in the night, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't cry. It was so painful to even cry. I couldn't drink. I couldn't eat. I couldn't plan my day. I wasn't being a good mum to my children. And I felt trapped by the pain. My life came to a standstill. And 6 months later, I lost my mum very suddenly. And again, the attacks came back with a vengeance. And now they weren't lasting hours or days. They had moved on to lasting for weeks, and one attack lasting for 3 weeks, which left me in a position of feeling suicidal. And trigeminal neuralgia is also known as the suicide disease, and I can vouch for why it got itself that name. If I was to depict the pain in art form, it would be that iconic picture of the scream, like branded into the side of my face again and again. Immense pain, and totally debilitating, and drained me of all my energy. I felt like I was being wasted down to a nothing, that the most I could ever do was cry, and even that was hugely painful. And I can also remember feeling so bad that I was driving and even contemplated crossing lanes and just going into head-on into oncoming traffic. And I know that sounds really selfish now, but it gives an example of the desperation that I felt while I was suffering that pain. And I went to the GP, and all they could offer was a really sort of heavy-duty pharmaceutical drug, which just numbed my entire being and made me so drowsy that I couldn't function properly. And I knew that it felt wrong. It didn't feel like a solution, and I certainly didn't want to live like that because it wasn't living. I was just being kind of sustained in a manner that wasn't conducive of living the life that I want to live, or being the parent I want to be, or being me and expressing who I am. So I decided that I couldn't take that route. And that might sound insane, as it was actually beginning to touch on the pain. But I knew that I wasn't addressing the root cause. There was something inside of me that just knew that this wasn't the solution, it wasn't an answer, and it wasn't going to get better if I went down that route. And just with those thoughts in mind, that was the time when, thank you, universe, I got in touch with Althea, that our paths crossed, and I am eternally grateful and so appreciative that we found each other, and that I was really ready to make a change in my life and I wanted rid of this pain, and that Althea was happy to work with me. And Althea is a wonderful woman who held space, is loving, caring, supportive, and available to guide me through that really bad time in my life, and to make me have a much better understanding of how that mind-body connection works. And although I knew it, and that's why I didn't want to go down the pharmaceutical route, this has helped me understand it even more, and that the energy that I'd been putting in, fighting and resisting the pain that was surfacing, to no avail, that there is another way, and there's another way of beginning to listen and listen to your body and your body's desire to want to heal. And it was like having a coin that was flicked and landed on the opposite side, like the complete polarity of what I'd been feeling and doing. And now I was doing and feeling very differently. And that really is all thanks to the guidance I got from Althea. And what would I say to you if you're in pain right now and you have found Althea too and you're contemplating whether to work with her? I would say, ask yourself, are you really ready for change? Have you absolutely reached your limit and definitely know that you want life to be different? Then make that step and trust Althea and trust the process that she takes you through, and commit and do the work. And I hope that you too will experience a journey of understanding yourself better and loving yourself, and love yourself enough to commit and do that work. And do it now.